No matter how large or small a project is, I always seem to find a way to destroy my garage, and I get tools everywhere, and when I need to use my table saw, it's occupied with tools in all my other workstation. Today I want to fix that problem by creating a shop cart. So my idea for this is no tool will ever be stored on it on a permanent basis. When the project is in process, everything will get loaded on this cart, and this is the only thing I want to clean up at the end of that project. Now this is going to take some real self-discipline to pull this off. It's not easy to see available space and not being able to use it, but you have to do it if you want to pull this off. And we'll touch bases on this on the back end of the video, where I can give you some ideas on what you could possibly use a cart like this for. Today's video is sponsored by RZ Mask. Now what's great about these masks is that they're made for all sorts of application, dust, air pollution, allergy, woodworking, and much more. Now I really love how comfortable they are, along with the Velcro straps on the back that easily allow you to take them off and put them back on. On top of that, the filter lasts a lot longer than the disposable ones. Each mask are made up of 3 parts: the mask itself, the replaceable filter, and also the discharge valve. To get your mask, all you have to do is just check out the link down in the video description and be sure to use promo code DIY Creators to get 15% off your purchase. Work with comfort, protection, and style. Now, unlike all my other projects, I normally jump into those and just get going with a basic idea. But this one, I put a lot of thought into it and basically the way I wanted to use it and what I thought that made the most sense for me. But also give you guys an idea and a purpose that this could also work for you as well. In terms of difficulty, this project wasn't that difficult. There was just a lot of cutting. Now once all that got done, I located all the parts that was going to be for the drawers. I took those over to my router table and routed a 1/4-inch groove in the bottom side of those. This could also be done on a table saw. It's just going to take you a lot more time than just doing it on the router. With the cutting, the routing all behind us, time to put this thing together. We're going to start the assembly, and we're going to start by making the first drawer. They're all going to be made the same way, big or small. The 1/4-inch groove we routed in there was to accept the 1/4-inch piece of ply that's going to be inserted inside the bottom side of the drawer. Now the nail gun is not needed, but because I needed to hold this together quickly so I can move on and jump to the other side, I just shot a few brad nails in it, and then I'll come back with adding screws. The wood glue is plenty strong enough, so you don't really need the screws, but because I need to move, I'm gonna add screws in it so I can finish this one up, set it to the side, and jump on the next one. And we got a lot to do, so I'm gonna repeat the same step for all the other drawers. It's been a while since I've used my pocket hole jig, and I don't have my pocket hole station anymore because my buddy was asking me to make one, and I don't like remaking things I've already made, so I just kind of handed off to him, and I'll figure something out in the future, maybe a different style. The box will be held with pocket hole screws, and this is pretty typical for cabinets and things of that nature, and I'm gonna add wood glue on this to provide extra strength. I'm also going to use this homemade corner square that is going to also help me hold these pieces together while I put the pocket hole screws in place. Now I started by adding the side first, then I can move on to adding the back. Now with the sides and the back being added, we can now install in the middle divider. Now this could be a bit tricky because you have so many points to keep an eye on just to make sure that this is square. I took scrap pieces, placed it on both sides to keep that in the middle, and then I used my speed square to make sure that that was aligned up right. Then I installed the pocket hole screws. Prior to the assembly, I knew that I should have put the top on first. When you're building and filming at the same time, it's so much to keep track of, and that's why I have to install the top using this right angle attachment. Now at this point I have no clue on what it cost to build this shop cart, because some of the pieces I actually used in this video were pieces that was either salvaged from other things or I got discounts on some of those things. For instance, I salvaged these from some audio video racks that was being thrown away. Now after looking at them, they were usable. I just had to do some work to remove all the metal brackets that was attached to them. But if I could save a little, sign me up. I'd do the extra work. I tried a few different methods, but this seems to be the quickest and easiest way by drilling out the rivets. And just like that, we got 10 down and 2 more to go. Now I know it's just a shop cart, but I still don't want to see the pocket holes. There's tons of options to fill these in. I'm going to use spackle, but you can use drywall mud or anything else that you'd like. This orbital sander have a very interesting design. It may not be my favorite sander, but it has the best dust collection that I have in my shop. Now I spend a great deal of time sanding down all the ends of the plywood and also the plywood surface. My goal is to make this look like the existing cabinets I have in my garage. Not identical, but the same style. But I've always wanted to get better at my finishing, so applying drywall mud really seemed to be helping along that journey. At this point, I'm removing the first layer of the drywall mud, but if I see any areas that need to be addressed again, I would just mix some more drywall mud and reapply. I was getting ready to paint and I realized I forgot to add an important piece to the build, and that's the trim going around the top. I added wood glue and brad nailed the trim on. Put a couple clamps in place and allow enough time for the glue to set. Now I have about 3 or 4 options for actually spray painting, and I'm gonna give this one a shot. I'm using the Rockler hvlp sprayer, and I want to see how well this is going to work out for this project. The most important thing is to read the instruction on the paint. So first I'm gonna start by applying primer, and right off the back I notice how well this sprayer actually sprays. The most important thing to point out here is the time I spent spraying versus the time I used to spend rolling. And although this is just a shop cart, the only way to get better is practice. Overall, the paint came out nice. I was really surprised how well the black took, so I only went with 1 coat, but I double checked to make sure everything looked good. Next, it's on to adding the casters. To add durability to the cart, I'm going to put a metal sheet on top. I picked up some sheet metal from my local metal supply store, and it was much cheaper if you just grab pieces that they had there and then cut it down to size. You saved a few bucks. The jigsaw seemed to be the best method that I had in my shop, and it actually worked out just fine. I was trying to figure out what was the best method to install this so that I could remove it easily later, and then I just thought about it, general purpose caulk, which a lot of builders use to install sinks and things of that nature, so I figured it would work for this as well. If you're not in a rush, just go ahead and use it and it should work just fine. Just line it up, place weight on top of it, and clamp it down. To now install the drawer hardware, I'm going to sit a 1/4-inch piece of plywood down. Then with a few pieces of scrap wood, I'm going to use this as an indication of how far my tracks need to come so my door can fit flush with the edge of the shop cart. Once that's determined, I can now secure the track in place. And with this side being done, I can then do the same thing on the opposite side, and now both tracks are installed. I'm going to use similar methods with the drawer. I'm going to place down 2 1/4-inch pieces of plywood on both sides, sit the drawer on top of that, and then pull the drawer tracks flush with the front of the drawer. Now install the screws in the front, do it on one side, and then jump to the next side and do it on that side as well. Next, we're going to pull the drawer all the way out and do the screws in the back. Once again, I'm going to do the same thing for the bottom drawer, and this is just a visual of what was done. Tracks are in, drawers are in, and now it's time to attach the fronts. The drawer handles was a bit trickier than I thought to attach, but I wanted to make sure that everything lined up. I figured it was easiest to just place masking tape on the drawer itself. That way I didn't have to commit to anything and just make marks. Instead of going with the brushed nickel handles I have on my existing cabinets, I decided to switch it up on this one. I just ripped down a couple 1x2s, cut them to the length that I wanted, and then spray it down with some shellac. And with the holes that was previously drilled, I can now install the handles. Alright, so it's time to address the top now, and for everyone's safety, I want to make sure that I round over the corners so that no one gets hurt. I prefer to use a file because I have more control over that and I can see what I'm taking off. And while I'm at it, I can clean up the perimeter of the shop cart since it only has primer on it, and now I can add paint to it, and then it's on to the next step. Now I have to admit, I was really feeling the top, so I decided to head back to the metal store and see if they had scraps around, and I was able to get enough that I can fill the drawers, and that way this adds some protection to it and durability to it so I don't have to damage them when I throw things inside. Now I did want to give you guys some ideas on what you could use this shop cart for. You can also use it as a shop cart, as I'm intended to use it for an outfeed table, just a regular table in the workshop. You can also place your miter saw on top of it, your bench sander, all these different tools that you can just place on top of it and work. You can use it as a simple storage, but for me, this is how I want to use it. When I'm working, I want to be able to throw all my tools right on this cart so that I can keep this area junky and my workshop clean. So just stay tuned. We should have the plans ready by the end of the week, and I'll let you guys know over on Instagram and also Facebook. For all my Patreon supporters, I will have the SketchUp file over on Patreon, so it's free to you guys if you want to go manipulate it and make all the changes you want to do to it. And also for my Hispanic listeners, if you want to check this out in Spanish, that video should be up soon on the DIY Creators Latino channel. And that's it for this one, guys. Do it yourself with DIY Creators. See you next time.